Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's time for my wide receiver rankings. These are my top 40 for half PPR leagues in week 14. At number one, I love Devontae Adams versus Chicago in a primetime game. Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to find the openings in the secondary of the Chicago defense, and Devontae Adams is going to have a great game. Love him. He's definitely number one. At number two, I love Justin Jefferson versus Pittsburgh, especially with Adam Thielen out, and there's a chance that Dalvin Cook won't be available either. So they're going to lean on Justin Jefferson. He's going to get a ton of targets, and Joe Hayden will not be able to stop him. Justin Jefferson is an elite wide receiver. At number three, I got Tyreek Hill versus Las Vegas, and he can always take one to the house from anywhere. However, he is facing Casey Hayward, who is one of the better corners in the league this season. And number four would be Deebo Samuel at Cincinnati. He is the key for the San Francisco offense. It runs through him, and as long as he suits up, he is a must-start, a definite top 5 wide receiver every single week. But that's not a guarantee, so if he doesn't play, you won't be able to start him. At number 5, I got Cooper Kupp at Arizona. I think this is a difficult matchup in a tough rivalry within the division. Cooper Kupp is obviously a great player, but I think this week I'm just expecting a bit more of a floor game for him. That's why I only have him at number 5. Last week I had him at number 1. At number 6, though, Stephon Diggs at Tampa Bay. This game has shootout written all over it, and Stephon Diggs could finish as the number 1 wide receiver. However, the Tampa Bay defense has been better recently, and I think there may be a few passes that don't connect. So that's why I only have Stephon Diggs at number 6. I could very easily have put him at number 1, though. At number 7, I'm trusting that Keenan Allen will start. If he does, he is on the COVID list at the moment, but he doesn't need to travel for this game. He's going to be great. He's been a top 10 wide receiver, seeing double-digit targets every week since the bye. Keenan Allen is a must-start, my number 7 wide receiver. At number 8, I got CeeDee Lamb at Washington, and this is a good matchup for him, but there are a few more mouths to feed in Dallas. He could also finish as the number 1, but sometimes he finishes with like less than 10 points, and that's why there's just a little bit more risk with CeeDee Lamb, but still a top 10 option for sure. At number 9, I love Terry McLaurin in the same game. Trayvon Diggs has been catching a lot of interceptions, but Terry McLaurin does not get penalized when that happens, and Trayvon Diggs also gives up a few really big plays, so Terry McLaurin can go off in this game. I think there's a high chance that happens, and he's definitely a top 10 play for me in week 14. Jamar Chase is also a top 10 wide receiver. He has the potential to score from anywhere on the field as well, but he's been a little bit limited the last couple of weeks. T. Higgins has kind of been coming on a little bit more, and that's why I've bumped down Jamar Chase just a little bit. I usually have him around 6 or 7 when he plays. At number 11, I got Deontay Johnson. You trust the volume, but the touchdowns aren't always there. But Deontay Johnson is looking like unguardable at the moment, so there's no way you're benching him. He's definitely a top 12 option, but this is kind of always where I rank him. I just don't really believe that he has much potential to score. At number 12, though, DeAndre Hopkins versus the Rams, and even though he's facing Jalen Ramsey, I'm not worried about it. DeAndre Hopkins is an elite receiver, and he looked to be back fully healthy after missing several games last week. So DeAndre Hopkins is a top 12 guy for me. I just wouldn't be able to bench him even against Jalen Ramsey. Otherwise, that's the only reason this matchup is in red. Otherwise, it's pretty neutral when it comes to the entire secondary for the Rams. At number 13, I got Marquise Brown at Cleveland, and the Browns have an extra week to prepare coming off the bye. They were kind of humiliated a couple weeks ago. It was not a good showing for them. So they're going to limit the Baltimore Ravens pretty well in this game. I think they're going to be ready, and Marquise Brown may be held out of the end zone. So I think it's a bit more of a floor game for him this week. And number 14, Mike Evans versus Buffalo. This is not a good matchup, but it's Tom Brady and the Bucs offense. They can always score a ton of touchdowns. Mike Evans is his preferred target. So that's why I have him at number 14 here, but I just don't love this matchup, and I'm downgrading the Bucs offense just a little bit this week. At number 15, though, I'm starting to believe in DK Metcalf a little bit, but it's mainly because it's a good matchup. They definitely wanted to get him more involved last week, and he did catch 5 passes for 60 yards. So I think in this matchup, he will find the end zone, and I think he's going to be the number 1 Seattle receiver this week, but it's not a guarantee. There is a bit of risk with DK Metcalf. At number 16, though, I got Amari Cooper at Washington. I think he will be less limited than he was coming off of the COVID list last week, and I think he will have a good game. He always gets a decent amount of targets from Dak Prescott. And number 17, Chris Godwin versus Buffalo. And similar to Mike Evans, I'm kind of just downgrading this offense a little bit this week against Buffalo. Even though there's shootout potential, there are a lot of mouths to feed. I think Gronk will be heavily used. Same goes for Leonard Fournette. And that's why I'm just tempering expectations for the Bucs wide receivers in a tough matchup. But I still want both of the wide receivers in my lineup. Same goes for Tyler Lockett. I think he's still a must start, definitely a top 20 play. And against Houston, I think he'll also have a good game, but I think that touchdown will go to DK Metcalf more likely than it would go to Tyler Lockett. And number 19 is Hunter Renfrow at Kansas City. He's going to get a big target volume in a full PPR league. He has a great, really high floor. However, the Kansas City Chiefs are really good at limiting number one opposing wide receivers. There's a chance Darren Waller comes back for this game, and in which case he would get the bulk of the coverage, and Hunter Renfrow may bump up a little bit in my rankings. But I don't like the upside for the Raiders this week. I think they will lose this game and struggle to score more than 14 points. However, Hunter Renfrow could easily catch like another 7-8 passes, and that's why I still trust his floor. He's still a top 20 wide receiver for me. At number 20, I have T. Higgins, who's been coming on really strong in the last few games. 3 weeks ago, I had T. Higgins as a must start, but he only caught 2 of 3 passes for 15 yards. Since then, though, he's had back-to-back games with over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Jamar Chase is getting a lot of coverage, and T. Higgins has been open. So I think that trend will continue, and T. Higgins is a very important part of this offense. I think he's going to have a good game, and you want him in your lineup once again. At number 21, though, I have Mike Williams versus the Giants. And if Keenan Allen is unable to suit up, Mike Williams will shoot up these rankings. I'll probably have him inside the top 12. However, he would get the more difficult coverage with James Bradbury in the mix. So it's possible Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton kind of fill the void a little bit. But I still think Mike Williams has a ton of upside this week. And if Keenan Allen doesn't suit up, he will have a very high floor that just isn't really there for Mike Williams anymore. He's very touchdown dependent, and without some big plays, he just doesn't show up. So some risk, but I still trust the upside. It's hard to bench Mike Williams. At number 22, I have Darnell Mooney, another player that's very difficult to bench. He had a down game last week, but in the fourth quarter, he had a few catches to salvage his game. Against Green Bay, he could really be limited. It looks like Jair Alexander is returning to practice, so he may suit up in this one, and that would really hurt Darnell Mooney. However, the Green Bay defense is just really good overall, and that's the only concern I have for Mooney. But in a primetime game, there's a ton of upside. The potential for him to score is lights out, and he feels like a lock to catch 5 receptions every single week, and many of his targets are deep down the field. So Darnell Mooney has a ton of upside, but a little bit of risk in this difficult matchup on Sunday night against Green Bay. And number 23, I got Jarvis Landry versus Baltimore. And even though he gets Marlon Humphrey, the more difficult coverage of this secondary in Baltimore, I think that the Browns are going to have a good game. And I think Jarvis Landry finds his way into the end zone. I like his upside a lot this week, and I trust him as a top 25 wide receiver. I like DJ Moore's potential against Atlanta. They have a lot of opportunity to score in this one. Atlanta's defense doesn't scare you. However, Cam Newton doesn't really throw the ball that well, and DJ Moore's volume has definitely come down in recent weeks since Cam Newton has taken over. That's why I can't rank him inside the top 20, but he does have a good matchup. He could go off. However, DJ Moore rarely scores a touchdown, so that's why he's a bit of a liability. At number 25, though, I have Jerry Jeudy versus Detroit, and I could regret this ranking. Jerry Jeudy has not really been paying off ever since he returned from his high ankle sprain. However, this is the matchup where I think he has the chance to really do it. Detroit's defense doesn't scare you, and I do think that Teddy Bridgewater will take some shots to Jerry Jeudy. He is definitely the number 1 wide receiver, just hasn't been paying off. For fantasy purposes, I think this week he gets it going, and he at least offers a very decent floor. I think the targets will be there this week. At number 26, I got Van Jefferson at Arizona, and I do think he has a ton of upside. His role is really being cemented now that Robert Woods is out, and he's getting a lot of targets. Odell Beckham Jr. is dealing with that hip pointer, and I think McVay just trusts Jefferson a little bit more. He's obviously been in the system longer, and I think that that's justified. He is a good flex play the rest of the season. And number 27, Chase Claypool at Minnesota. Now that he's fully healthy, he looks to be really good and is very consistent. But Deontay Johnson is definitely the player you want, so Chase Claypool's upside is a bit limited. That's why I only have him at number 27. Christian Kirk, though, is a decent top 30 option. I think he has some upside this week, especially with Hopkins getting the Ramsey coverage. So Christian Kirk could have himself a nice game. I think he is a good flex option as well. Number 29, though, Brandon Cooks versus Seattle. I don't like this matchup. They've been better just overall ever since they got really desperate. And Tyrod Taylor is dealing with a wrist issue. Davis Mills isn't practicing. I don't like Brandon Cooks' upside. He's definitely just a floor play at this point in the season. Brandon Ayuk, though, I think would benefit from Deebo Samuel returning to the lineup. He wouldn't get the bulk of the secondary coverage, and I think he'd find a few more opportunities to get open. So that's why I still view him in flex territory. There's a lot of upside with Ayuk, but he really kind of let us down last week. If it wasn't for a few catches in the fourth quarter, he would have done nothing. At number 31, though, there is a lot of upside with Odell Beckham Jr. at Arizona. And even though he's banged up, I think if he plays, you want him in your lineup. And it'll be on a Monday night, so he'll have an extra day to get healthy. I think he'll be just fine, but I would prefer Van Jefferson if I am choosing between the two. It's not a guarantee, but if Sterling Shepard does suit up, he's definitely the number one wide receiver for the Giants. He's the only one that I have a little bit of trust in. I would rank him just below Odell Beckham Jr. if he suits up, but I don't expect that to happen. He's been pretty banged up this season. At number 32, I got Courtland Sutton, who has some potential against Detroit like Jerry Jeudy, but I don't think that he gets into the end zone. Those have been pretty rare this season, and I don't love his upside, just a floor play for me. Elijah Moore is going to be very risky, especially against Marshawn Lattimore, even at home. I don't trust Zach Wilson, and Elijah Moore's upside has kind of gone out the window. So he's just a floor play. He is getting the most volume in New York, but I just don't trust him inside the top 30. And number 34 is a player I view very similarly. It's Michael Gallup. The difference is Michael Gallup is the number 3 wide receiver in Dallas, but he feels like a lock to catch 5 passes a game. And with Amari Cooper kind of struggling last week, he had a bigger role than expected. So I think he's going to be used a decent amount the rest of the way, and I will probably rank him in this range every week going forward. This is a good matchup, so he does have some upside, especially if he finds the end zone. At number 35, though, I got Cole Beasley at Tampa Bay. And there's shootout potential, but Cole Beasley never finds the end zone. He is a liability for fantasy purposes in that regard. But I think he'll have a decent floor. I think he'll be used to move the chains on those check down passes for Josh Allen. Rashad Bateman at number 36 at Cleveland. Lamar Jackson does offer some upside to his receivers, and I would rather start Bateman than Watkins. I think he has more potential. Number 37, though, Marvin Jones at Tennessee. This is a good matchup, but I don't trust the Jaguars at all. If I have to start one of those wide receivers, I would prefer Marvin Jones, but I just don't want to count on him. I'm not excited about the Jags offense. At number 38, though, KJ Osborne is an interesting dart throw. Adam Thielen has been ruled out for tomorrow's game, and KJ Osborne definitely offers some upside. He is typically a deep threat, but I think he'll have a few more underneath routes and offer a decent upside. I think his volume is going to take a big step up this week. But still, just a dart throw. He does come with a lot of risk. At number 39, A.J. Green versus the Rams. And at this point, you're also kind of just taking a shot in the dark. A.J. Green definitely gets some targets, but it's kind of a fluke when he scores. Hard to predict. And that's why I'd rather stay away. But Deshaun Jackson is my number 40 wide receiver, and I think he is a very interesting high as fuck upside type of play. You know that they're going to limit Hunter Renfrow as much as possible, and in order to compete in this game, Derek Carr is going to have to take a few shots deep down the field. When he does that, it goes to Deshaun Jackson, and if he takes one to the house, then Jackson could be a top 20 play this week, but obviously there's a lot of risk involved. He is just a desperate dart throw, but you could do a lot worse. And then right outside the top 40, just a few names that you may be considering: Tyler Boyd, Emmanuel Sanders, Josh Reynolds, Marquez Callaway, and Brian Edwards, along with Laviska Shenault, do have a little bit of appeal this week. If I was desperate for a flex who have ranked outside the top 30, I would definitely shoot for a wide receiver over a running back. I think they offer more upside. So those are my top 40 wide receiver rankings for half PPR leagues. If you have a question, a start sit decision you got, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. I'll get to it as quickly as I can. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'll have quarterback, tight end, and defensive rankings out tomorrow. And if you're looking for running back rankings, those will be available right here. But my name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.